Oh, wasn't that beautiful? Yes, thank you so much. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce Hyeyoung Lee. And, I saw the information yesterday to introduce her, and I said, well, what happened? I don't see any information about this lady here. So I talked to her today, and I said, tell me a little bit about yourself so I can tell these people. And she is married to Kurt Esslinger, as it shows. And they have a son, a 4-year-old, so that keeps them busy. His name is Sahn, and she tells me that is Korean for mountain. So he's gonna grow to be big in a mountain, so God's blessing. She is the coordinator for the PCUSA Young Adult Volunteers. And she helps them settle down and to promote social justice, reconciliation, and respectful evangelism as people of faith. Her husband is the head of the National Council of Churches in Korea. And so both of them keep real busy. So we are pleased to have her here. But it's a small world because she tells me she actually went to school right here in Chicago. She went to the McCormick Seminary and worked there as a social worker, serving the Korean immigrants for a while before she, and then she actually knows some people right in here today, Julie and Delazine, right? Who went to school with her here? Anybody? Maybe not. Yeah, there he is. Somebody does. Yeah. Adam. Yeah, sorry. So it gives me real great pleasure to welcome her to give you a few words. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very honored to be here, especially hearing about how you are so excited about and also celebrating the life of Fran Anderson. I'm very glad to see the strong women's leadership and presence in this Presbytery. And as I was actually communicating with Bob a couple of months ago, you guys are very organized and calling me like 3 months ahead and organizing this together. And I am very deeply impressed with the work that you are doing with the Presbyteries and with the other parts of the world. And thank you very much for sharing your story from Kenya. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about what we do as a mission co-workers in Korea. As you see the picture of me and my family, there right now we are actually doing a 6 months interpretation and assignment. So we arrived here in the U.S., Georgia. We right now in the Decatur, Georgia, for 6 months. We are going to different churches to share our stories. Unfortunately, my family wasn't able to come join me in this trip together. We're trying to coordinate. My son is going to preschool there, so sometimes I travel, sometimes my husband travel. We are here today, I'm here today to share a little bit of the signs of hope in Korea. You probably heard a lot about a lot of things going on between Trump and Kim Jong-un, and first time I get here, everybody talking about, so what's going on over there, and what can you tell us? And I all of a sudden became an expert. I can tell you my perspectives on stories, but I'm sure you also hear very different versions of stories, and hopefully what I'm saying you today can give you another kind of perspectives on issues of Korean peace and justice and reconciliation. We are here today to share the story from our partners and the spirit of HABAKKUK, who called by God to write the vision. So I don't know if you follow some of our Korean politics in Korea. Last year, Korea had a process, this year actually, had a process of impeachment of our current president. One of our YAVs, a young adult volunteer program, which is, I'm a site coordinator for the young adult volunteer program in Korea. I'm giving you a little bit of understanding of what that program does. We invite young adult volunteers from US to serve with us in Korea. And not just in Korea, there are 6 different international sites and then 15 different sites in the national sites. And then we invite them to come and live with us for a year to learn about what the Korean does to keep peace and reconciliation in Korea. And they also volunteer in various places to learn about different issues. Simon is one of our volunteers, followed us last year in November, around this time, and to meet with our partners in Seoul. The National Council of Churches in Korea. My husband is not a head of National Council of Churches. He actually works for them. So they work together as a partnership. Thank you for the introduction, but there's a little bit, one thing that I need to correct. And then Presbyterian Church of Korea and the Presbyterian Church in the Republic of Korea, PROK. During our visit, our partners were asking, oh, so you gonna go to that candlelight protest for impeachment for our president? So like our partners were asking us, you should go to see the historical moment. So we actually ended up going to the huge demonstration that happened right in the middle of Korea, in Seoul, Korea. So we went there with my family, with a 4-year-old too, came together, and then our YAVs, including the Simon. It was an important moment for Koreans to stand up as a citizen, to taking the street to demand that democracy and the justice to be protected and upheld. We found ourselves in the middle of Korea along with other Korean citizens, and that was a very interesting moment for us and for our YAVs, including the Simon. Simon later told me that it was more like a festival or a celebration for him. It was quite enjoyable. He felt like it was a celebration of hope that God would help us to establish justice. So we found ourselves next day at the news media. It says that there were 1.9 million people at that demonstration. So you can imagine how actually the city that we live in, Daejeon City, is 2 hours away from there. The population in that city is 1.5. So the more than a city size of the people were lived there, to crying out, asking for, "Oh Lord, how long shall I cry for help and you will not listen, or cry to you violent and you will not save?" Another story. This is my friend Emily. When I asked Emily, what made you come to Korea? She's actually from Taiwan. She said, instead of trying to figure out what peace means by just reading books, I wanted to practice peace in action. So she's a peace activist from Taiwan living in Korea with her Korean husband, who she met while she lived in Gangjong village as an activist in Korea. Gangjong village is a tiny little town located in the southern tip of Korea, and is an island. And then the Gangjong, the village, Gangjong means village of water. So it refers to the abundance of surface fresh water in the area and the rarity of the island of volcanic rocks. This clean water from the Gangjong stream makes nearby farmlands some of the most fertile of the island. I met Emily in January 2014 as I was traveling with other volunteers from US to learn about what's the struggle. The Jeju Island, as you can see, is a very beautiful island. Has it's a very famous spot even for the Koreans for honeymoon. This is a picture I taken, and then this is another beautiful picture. So this is a very beautiful island, very warm climate. But this place has a painful story. Jeju Island is one of the most when we visited Gangjang village, Emily, my friend, introduced to struggles of village. They have been ongoing nonviolent struggle to start the construction of the Jeju naval base project that was focused on the Gangjang villagers of this beautiful the little village. Since 2007, the South Korean government has been aggressively trying to build a naval base on top of the village and the precious environments, despite the opposition of a strong majority of the villagers. 94% of the voters of the villagers opposed to this idea of having this naval base in that area. The wide range of human rights abuse happened against the peaceful protesters has been taking place in Gangjang on daily basis in order to endure the construction. I can show you some couple of photos. The religious workers and the people are coming to the streets to work for the protest against that happening construction. And Jeju Naval Base project will not only contribute the further militarization of the Asia Pacific region, this also increasing the tension between the security of the Korean and then the neighborhood countries. So I have actually. This is another protest photo of the circle in the middle. That's a Jeju island. And then you can see that it's close to China and it's close to Japan. It's also close to Russia. So having the naval base in that area actually threatens the neighboring country. So when they were constructing the naval base, they were saying that, oh, we are actually doing this to protect you from the North Korea. But Jeju Island is as far as you can go from North border. So which doesn't really make sense when they were saying that kind of stuff. This is a picture of a grumpy rock. So when you say rock, it's like I couldn't really imagine what the rock meant. But Emily has told me that this is not just a regular rock. It's a 1.2 kilometer long, very huge lava rock that created when the volcano eruption happened a long time ago. But this is a very important meaning for villagers. They come here as a children to come play. It's a playground, and it's a place for swimming and gathering of the families. And this also has a very valuable, the environmentally very important because there's a lot of rare species living under this rock, and it's also a sacred place for the villagers come in and pray when they are looking for a place to play and things like that. This is another picture of that rock. It's a part of the rock, and the children will come and play in this clean and beautiful water. This no longer exists. This picture of a grumpy rock, much of this destroyed and paved. Much of this rocks destroyed and paved over with what do you call it? Concrete. When naval base construction completed in 2016 last year. Even with this completion of a naval base, the pain of villagers continued because their childhood memories and their life of giving sources and beauty of the village has gone. That was the very, very painful day of the villagers. Yeah, this is another construction that's going on, and then there's an ongoing demonstration against this. As Habakkuk said, as it is written in Habakkuk 1, chapter 1, verse 3, why do you make me see wrongdoing and look at trouble? Destruction and violence are before me, and strife and contention arise. Emily has cried out. Emily, along with the other people who are looking for peace and justice in this world, and its supporters. My husband, Kurt Esslinger, he works for the National Council of Churches in Korea. It's an ecumenical council of all the major Protestant churches in Korea, denominations, and his job is focusing on that. He works for the Reconciliation and Reunification Department. He helps with the communication with the churches in Korea, the partners, and the other parts of the country on the world. So U.S. and Europe and the different parts of the churches that are working for the peace and justice. As part of his work, he actually interviewed one of the professors from Ewha University, one of the prestigious university in Korea, Dr. Seo, David Seo. He has a story that can illustrate the work that our partners does. So I'm going to introduce some of these stories. Dr. Seo grew up in the northern part of Korea before Korea was divided into two nations. His father was a minister in northern part of Korea, and he during the Japanese occupation. So I know as a Korean, many of you probably know, before Korean War, there was a period of Korea was being occupied by Japanese imperialism. So during that time, he was spoken against this imperialism, and then he was a very outspoken person. And so that was up until the August 1945. That's the independence from the Japan happened in Korea. Korea celebrated liberation from Japan. However, the U.S. and Soviet Union, without any Koreans' presence, decided to divide the peninsula into two, North and South. So right now, we have North Korea and South Korea, as you know it. And every time I go introduce myself as, hey, I'm Korean, and people would ask, are you from North and South? And this is, people know that there is a division and then asking me just out of curiosity. But this is very painful part of my history, and every time I receive that kind of question, I'm really feeling very emotional about it. So continuing with this story, Dr. Seo's father also spoke out against the North Korean government after the division happened because he sees a lot of corruptions, especially the Korean Christian Federation that resides in Korea, north part of Korea. He recognized the Korean Christian Federation to be his worst enemy. Young, David's father was later executed by a North Korean officer, and the young David Seo found his father's body, dead body, killed by the North Korean officers. And then when he saw and held his father's body bleeding, and he pleads that he's gonna revenge. So he fled to Korea and joined the Navy to fight against his enemy. After Korean War ended, he was given the opportunity to study in the U.S. He studied theology, he became a pastor. There he learned about the civil rights movement, and it was in the 70s. So he also went to the preach of Martin Luther King Jr., where he learned about love for our enemy and transforming hate into love. He was very struggling after listening to this preach because he was beginning to question whether he could still harbor his desire for revenge and live truly as a Christian. So he returned to South Korea after receiving his PhD and began working with the National Council of Churches in Korea. One day he followed to NCCK, National Council of Churches, to Canada, where he had a chance to meet with the North Korean Christian Federation. This was invited by WCC, the World Council of Churches, and having this dialogue between North and South for the first time. The leader of a Korean Christian Federation from North happened to be the son of its founder, the most hated enemy of Dr. Seo's father. The enemy approached to the Dr. Seo that night before he was supposed to give a speech. His enemy asked Dr. Seo for help to interpret his speech because Dr. Seo was very good at speaking English. Dr. So was surprised and very struck in hard places because, for one, for South Korean law would have him arrested upon return to Seoul if he helped translate for the North Korean. And two, he might be dishonoring his father by helping his father's enemy. He went to bed that night and asking God for answer as to what to do, God's answer, what to do for this situation. God's answer to Habakkuk was, I'm sorry, this is Dr. So. Justice might take a while, but it will surely come. In the meantime, write the vision. Dr. So decided to write the vision. He decided to transform his revenge into love by helping his father's enemy. He told my husband, Kurt, in the interview that this was like a revelation for him. He said after the revelation, he felt much freer to criticize Korean government authority as his father did to Japan and to North Korea before him. Going back to Simon's story, Simon watched South Korea impeach its president and then peacefully elect a new president. Simon will continue write his vision now that he returned to U.S. after finishing his YAV year in Korea, and now he is he's doing another second-year YAVs, volunteering at the PCUSA Ministry of United Nations, continuing work on the international justice and peace advocacy. This is a picture of neighbor base, the completion of a neighbor base in Jeju Island. So despite all the fights, the neighbor base was constructed. At the same day, peacekeepers at the villagers claimed that this village as a peace village. On the same day that the construction was completed, on the other part of the village, on the other side of war, they were singing and dancing to celebrate the peace village that will continue to go on. The neighbor base for war can never be truly completed as the protesters for the peace are always there in the village for life, peace, and culture. Emily, my friend, is an artist. During her time in Gangjeong, she has been recorded her witness and the feeling through painting. And this is a picture of her drawing picture of a Gromby rock, the rock that I was talking about in the beginning. She said, this is a direct quotation from her. Gangjeong is a lake under heavy rain. The real reason of this heavy rain in the world has been festering and smelly, but not many people realized. It made me feel sad. But I think what I can do in this heavy rain is holding an umbrella as I am. When I see different kinds of people holding their own umbrella in different kinds of ways, I want to silently respond to their small kindness by holding my own umbrella too. My drawing is something like this. It is a small umbrella I hold for Gangjeong. Emily, along with the peacemakers in Gangjeong village, is writing their vision every day by dancing and singing and painting hope for peace and justice. This will be our new YAV site. So young adults from US will come to Korea, and then this will be one of our placement so that young adults in the US can also learn about these issues in Korea. Dr. Seo now enthusiastically support the work of NCCK and their campaign for the peace treaty with North Korea. Right now, Korea is ceasefire, but we want to move on to the dialogue, having to do the peace treaty. So pray for us. This is my son holding candlelights for the peace and justice. Thank you again for giving me this opportunity to share these stories with you. Support like this, and for having me come here and share these stories with you, actually empowers us and our ministry in Korea. With your help and your prayer, we can do work that God has calling us to do in Korea. So please join with me with a prayer, and if you can write a vision by writing a check, that will be also something to do. Like some of the things that you said, you might have a time to pray, you might have some money to send us, that would be great. And also other things that you can do, the things that I talked about, the campaign that we are doing a peace treaty campaign. So if you can go to the website, koreapeacetreaty.com, it's very easy. You can just go sign your name, and then that will be added to our peace campaign. Thank you.